Hello, nerdy neighbors. Welcome back to the Nerdy Neighborhood, and welcome back to your Friendly Neighborhood Comic Show. I'm your host, Lauren, your Friendly Neighborhood Bi, and today we are back with another indie creator interview with MAIR LOWERY. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good. Did I say that right? Your last name is hard.
You did. Yes, the two last names. Yes, but
cool.
Well done.
Yeah. I saw that and I was like, ooh, this is fun. So I was like, I can't shorten it, because I know how that is. You have the full, that's your, full name. You don't just shortcut it like the rest of us lame people do.
Yeah, it's all right. Yep.
Well, tell us a bit about what's coming today, because you came on to talk about THOUGHTSCAPE Comics, which is a really cool name for a publisher, by the way. So at first when you told me about it, I was like, that could be like just a whole publisher name. But in reality, this is a Kickstarter that you originally got funded, issue 1. It's a sci-fi anthology, and you're looking to get the next 2 issues funded come January 2023, which is super duper exciting. I did take a peek around in it that, it's a sci-fi anthology, and, you compare it to Black Mirror and Twilight Zone. And then I saw that people like Liam Sharp and the Comic Book Yeti, who are some good pals of mine, gave it a ton of great praise. Yeah. So this seems like it is all the hype. I am shocked I haven't heard about it before you reached out. Yeah. Tell us a bit about how you came up with this anthology in the first place, because lots of people do all kinds of anthologies.
Yeah, I basically so I'd had a couple graphic novels published through Dark Horse 2017, 2019, and around those and after that I'd been trying to pitch around to different publishers to not great effect, and basically decided that I was just going to go back and do the thing you're supposed to do when you start making comics, which is do short stuff. I had gone ahead and just written the 2 full graphic novels as like my starting point, which was a little bit backwards. But I started writing a bunch of short stories, really influenced at the time by Twilight Zone, especially, which I was getting into later in life, but loving a lot. And when, as I was putting those together, I was noticing that they were very much in like a similar wheelhouse, like, with the Black Mirror angle, a tech angle to them, and under the influence of like my growing up in the 80s stuff like Aliens and Blade Runner and whatnot, a couple like companies were appearing throughout these things, like evil tech companies and all that kind of stuff. And I just basically decided to, like, using those entities and just similar themes, sort of tie them together, and realized if I did that, I could kind of package them all up in under one banner, which became THOUGHTSCAPE. And so, I started off with just a couple stories that I printed up that I was going to take to, I think, is this right? Emerald City in 2020, but that didn't happen with the pandemic. And so I had those done. I had some other stuff in progress, and I was I'd been really reluctant to go into the crowdfunding space, because it just, I guess, mostly it looked like a lot of work that wasn't making comics, and it is, but it's very, I guess, I went for it anyway, because I was seeing people having lots of success there. And after I did, and like doing the campaign and stuff, I ended up really enjoying it, and like connecting with a whole bunch of folks that, were not familiar with my work at all, which is not surprising, because it was just a couple, books, small books on Dark Horse. But it was like a pretty fun experience, and being able to control the entire process and the final output in terms of, down to like what paper I'm using and all that kind of stuff, was something that I really enjoyed, and also used. I do design stuff for work, and I have done, I started my career, such as it is, as a print designer back in the late 90s. And so I'm used to doing all that sort of work as well. That's not the directly comics related stuff. So, so it kind of gives me a lot of stuff to do, which I like to work. So I guess that's a good thing. And gives me things to do when, maybe I don't have budget to be paying an artist at this moment or something. So I can just kind of work on packaging and, trying to get stuff out there a little bit more while I'm also writing ahead and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's sort of how it came together, and people really dug it. That first one we did a little over 9,500 to get the first book done, and printed, perfect bound, cool paper stock. And yeah, it got a really good reception. And so I am, I kind of want to kickstart things a little bit now and get a couple issues out this time. So the Kickstarter will be for issues 1 through 3. And we'll see if we can make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I really enjoyed you sharing all that. It's always really cool to actually get into the thought process of creators, because so often, again, like, in general interviews, especially on the big sites and stuff, they ask very broad questions and we get very general answers. So I really appreciate all that detail you shared. Before we talked a bit more, I wanted to share, since you gave such a great description of everything there, this is the Kickstarter page right now, and it'll be in the link below for all of y'all watching. So you can just click it, take a look at it, hit that follow button. You can already see I'm still logged in. I've followed it already, which is great. So you guys can follow it while we're talking. It's like 2 clicks to get there. I mean, no time at all. You can still be lazy and click 2 buttons. I believe in y'all. Yeah. But one thing I really loved is, so even just starting, I think this is part of why it probably took off so well the first time you did the Kickstarter, because just from the setup of the first issue, there's a page, and the first few pages kind of like greet the reader as a member of Life Text Record and Render Division, because the div is capitalized. What's that all about? Because I clearly am missing a huge world, but it makes me want to read it more, because I'm like, oh, I'm welcome. I'm a part of this fancy computer-looking thing.
Yes. Yeah, I was really influenced by a lot of stuff I grew up reading. Was very just sort of threw you into the deep end. Like I dove into, when I was a kid, I picked up, issue 204, 203 of X-Men, and had no idea what was going on, but it was intriguing and I wanted to know more. And it, sent me into both being open to all the world being built around it as I continued to read. And then it made me want to go back and learn more. And so, I really, and I guess even back then I was reading, the Larry Hama G.I. Joe comics at the same time. And like, when we were kids, we had, the G.I. Joe file cards that came on the back of each action figure and stuff. And we were, tracking plot lines as well as each character's stats and, all that kind of thing. So I wanted to build, I wanted to use my design skills to build up all the material around the stories to really make each issue sort of immersive. And I was also I just read Dune for the first time, and they've got, the chapters start with like these little quotes that happen pulled from books in the world and that kind of thing. And I really love that. And it felt like it would be fun to say, like, okay, if I'm projecting out that, and the basic conceit of THOUGHTSCAPE is that all the stories presented in each issue are captured by the Record and Render division as they sort of probe the THOUGHTSCAPE, which is this dimension where every thought that's ever been thought exists. And so they basically pull these out of the ether and put them into the comic for us. And so I thought it'd be fun to basically do the intro of the first handful of issues as different parts of like an employee orientation for that group. And it's fun. And I, in the second issue, my friend, the writer, George Pendle, he really we'd been working on some pitches and stuff together, and he was digging what was happening in THOUGHTSCAPE. So he actually wrote up the intro for the second one, and he's like a little bit funnier than I am and very, very intelligent. So he came up with some really cool stuff for that. And so it's like a fun thing to collaborate on, and it doesn't, we can kind of be a little bit more funny maybe than some of the stories, or just really have a good time with it. In both it sort of forms like the bookends for each issue. So yeah, it's a good time. And then we throw in like some in-world advertisements as well throughout the issue.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, because that was one of my favorite things too. Kind of like you're talking about with, making it feel like an immersive world. And I love that you mentioned the X-Men earlier too. I'm a huge X-Men fan, and I do keep up with as much of the Krakoan stuff, the current stuff, as I can. And one thing that a lot of people either really like or really don't like are the data pages, or the kind of extra pages that build that world. So I think you doing that has been really great. And I also just really love how you kind of describe the Thoughtscape. And I'm also a huge Assassin's Creed fan, like the original games, like the first couple. And it just reminds me of what's that called? I can't remember what it's called, but basically the vessel you go into to go back in the memories.
Oh, okay.
It reminds me of that very much.
Nice.
So you've got all these really great themes from a lot of different franchises. They're already working so well, and you're putting into like one nice, easy, wonderful package for us readers to just take up and say, haha, I have it all in one place. Why do I need to go here right now? I'll do that after.
Totally. Yeah, no, and that the House of X Powers of 10 stuff was a huge influence too. I was way into that. And there's obviously a lot of nods to the design, Hickman style design stuff in this as well. So it's it's like everything. My first book, Life Formed, was totally like sort of in my head, a remix idea, sort of like what if a little girl was Sarah Connor, Terminator type of story. And this Thoughtscape being sort of a blender of a bunch of different ideas as well. Everything's a little bit of a remix anyway. So it's like, pick your favorite stuff and really, then try to bring yourself to it as much as possible. Grendel, if anyone's familiar with like Matt Wagner's comic from the 80s, that's still going. But he did a lot of really dense, almost prosy world building stuff in those comics as well. And so that was a huge influence on Thoughtscape also.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how, because it's an anthology and you seems like you have a lot of other great creators on board, there's definitely a difference in style of each story, which is cool. So you can go from kind of, like you said, like this kind of Terminator-esque story to something with these really beautiful, purple neon colors. And then you've got stuff that's a little more almost abstract, kind of. Yeah. It's just so cool because, like you're kind of saying, there's something literally for everybody. You can take your favorite stuff and you're going to still enjoy the entire issue because you're going to get your favorite stuff in there and you'll get exposed to some of the cool stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And it's been a blast working with these different creators. So basically, I guess I'm not sure if I address this, but so I write all the stories, and then each issue has 4 stories and 4 different artists, or a different artist on each story. And so there are 2 ongoing tales in each issue. One is this ex post facto that you've got up now, which has art by Carl Slominski, which is completely off the hook in a great way. And the first stuff you had up actually a second ago was Dave Law, who does Thoughtscape 2319. And this is sort of our, so got a lot of 2000 AD influence in it, like some Rogue Trooper and that kind of thing is where my head's at with that. And Dave does this really cool, like kind of old school inks, pencils and inks with watercolor and also Photoshop stuff. So it's got a really unique look to it. And then, so it's basically 2 ongoing serialized things in each issue and then 2 standalone stories. We try to mix it up a lot. And this is more of Carl's stuff, really fantastic. And this basically is just this story here started with my sort of pandemic summer of 2020, things going crazy, ramblings, and I was just journaling a bunch of stuff, and at some point was also discovering Carl's work at the same time. And it's like, I wonder if we could make a story out of this. And I just kind of scripted something, and he was down for my abstract strangeness, and it came together great. And that's one of my favorite things to write. I just get to think like, what would I like to have Carl draw, and what can I scribble over the top of it, basically. And it's a whole lot of fun. So,
that's one thing I really like about this anthology too, that I don't think we see, I can't think of a single other anthology I've seen it where there's 2 ongoing stories. So it's a continuing anthology series essentially. And then you've got the other 2 that, you know, can switch up. So literally every single issue you get something you're familiar with. And then you also get something new, which I think is like the perfect combo as a fan, as a reader. It doesn't get much better than that. You literally get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that's cool. That's good to hear. Yeah, I wasn't like, I knew that I would like it, and I kind of just ran with what I felt like I would like, which was like some variety and some newness. And yeah, so I'm glad that works for somebody else as well. And this page is by Tyrell Cannon, who people might have seen on Aubrey Sitterson's Beef Bros campaign. This is actually the first story Tyrell and I did, but it's going to appear in the second issue. He did that other super colorful motorcycle helmets and guns image you showed a minute ago as well. Yeah, there you go. And he's an action comics beast, but who can also handle the quiet moments. So hopefully we've got these 2 stories. I've got, I'm always working on stuff for him, just because he's really great to work with, and I don't know. I think we've got some similar shared aesthetics and stuff that make it a lot of fun. So hopefully we can boost THOUGHTSCAPE into a regular sort of schedule, and I can have the funds to get Tyrell on a bunch of stuff in the future.
Yeah, 100%. It's hard to find artists that could go from something like this to something like this.
Yeah.
Like I went from, oh, that's pretty, to being like, I don't want to see that bottom left panel. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
That's so detailed. That's why, it's just so well done. And they've got this one, which also has kind of its own aesthetic as well.
Yeah. This is Jacob Edgar with colors by Leslie Atlansky. And Jacob's actually he just put out the second issue of his book with Brian Bendis, The Ones. At Dark Horse. And Jacob's got a killer, really classic style. It's got a little bit of Darwin Cook in it, and some animation and stuff, and just really classic comics feel to me. So that was also, everybody's been great to work with, so it's repetitive of me to say so, but everybody brings their own thing to the table, and it's fun to really just see how it comes together, even though it's all sort of disparate styles.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm terrified to see what that table looks like for whoever this guy is.
Yes.
It's not a fun table.
No.
But this is such a cool design, and I like how it almost looks like it was watercolored or something. Like that texture is really cool.
I'm not totally sure. So this is I guess the star of one of our stories, or a character from one of our stories. This is by Jeremy Brooks, who has a really cool, obviously sort of loose, sketchy style that I think we employed to good effect on his story, which is called Corpus Delicti. It's a sort of eat the rich sort of story in the third issue. And he sent me this. I don't, this was actually just like a character concept, but I loved it so much. I'm going to throw this into the press thing because it's hilarious. It caught my eye.
I had to because your press thing is so great and there's so many photos to choose from, but I was like, I don't know what this guy is, but this attracted my attention. I know other weirdos like me are going to be like, I don't know who that guy is, but he looks either terrible to hang out with or really fun.
Yes, I guess true. He's, maybe a little bit of both, so we'll find out. But
both is always the answer here with me, so it's perfect. Perfect timing. So your campaign is going to run from January 2nd of 2023 till January 30th. Is that correct?
Yep. Correct.
Okay. Awesome. So that means all of you guys watching now, you guys have plenty of time to follow it, and then you also have plenty of time to back it, because Kickstarter does not take your funds till it's funded. So you can back it and still get your paycheck 2 weeks later, and you'll be good.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and we've got some, speaking of everybody and kind of everybody we just walked through a little bit. So Dave, who does THOUGHTSCAPE 2319, Carl, who does Ex Post Facto, and Jeremy, who did our creature that we had there a second ago, are all offering commissions as rewards. So
awesome.
We'll have 3 different artists doing commissions, and so that'll be super fun. So there'll be 30 30 commission slots ultimately, with everybody doing 10, or the three of them doing 10 each.
Oh wow, that's a shit ton for them. Like, that is so kind of them. Like, even though I know they're getting, we'll be paying them for it, but I mean, people, y'all should be excited, because artists don't do that often. Like, they just, because it's a lot.
Yeah, totally. It's super great of them, and they're all we'll see it, or I guess the people can see it when the page goes live, but there's just their example commissions are fantastic. So we had a good time with that on the first one, but it was just Dave that time, so I wanted to kind of like level up and get a few different options for folks to get some original art on their walls. So
yeah, absolutely. I know, obviously, you probably don't want to give too much away before the Kickstarter launches, but are there any other rewards you want to tease with the commissions, or is that really like the peak highlight, which is a fantastic highlight? Again, you can't beat 10 slots per artist. Yeah,
no, that's probably like the big one. And obviously, those are bigger ticket rewards as well. But I'm trying to think if we have a lot of stuff. So I've kind of got like this advisory council for THOUGHTSCAPE of some other I'm in Portland, Oregon, based folks who are also publishers. And so those folks are giving me permission. We've made arrangements for me to offer some of their books as well through the Kickstarter. So if you want to try out some of these associated publishers, you'll be able to grab those as add-on rewards too. So we got like a horror prose books from Tenebris Press. We've got an issue of Corridor magazine, which is sort of like a sci-fi horror, like a really nice oversized mag, and stuff like that. So and then Tyrell actually has put an anthology together a couple of years back that has 3 volumes, and people will be able to pick that up as well if they want. So I try to get really robust with the rewards there to, I don't know, introduce part of the whole point of THOUGHTSCAPE too is to just introduce folks to these artists and introduce them to, new people doing cool stuff. And so I wanted to really like flesh that out this time around.
I love that. I love the emphasis on not only, because you've worked so hard, it sounds like, to just get this out as your work, right? But it's such a community for you too. You not only want to get your own stuff out and be successful and enjoy what you're doing, but also see the same for other creators. So I love that. I love the uplifting community aspect.
Cool. Yeah, it feels really essential these days. Like there's, it's getting more and more challenging to just get people to your page on social media. So just, and like I think we're all trying to figure out like what's this new world look like, and it's tough, but there's models, like I was talking with my other publishers crew, where like the 80s sort of punk rock model of maybe you get a little catalog going of everybody who's got different work, but work that has some crossover potential with each other's audience. So kind of starting to knit that together a little bit, or like see how that could present in a Kickstarter form. So maybe a little trial balloon for that kind of approach. So see what happens.
Yeah, I think over time it might take a couple tries and tweaks to get it right, because the thing too is that the second anybody, including me, thinks we know other readers, consumers, fans, then we're like, oh wait, we were close, but nope, you guys barely want this. All right, we're gonna try again in like 2 months. We'll see you then.
Yep, totally. Yes, fail fast, fail often, and try to like evolve as you go, for sure.
Yep. I think sometimes again, but sometimes the more often you fail, the more often you'll succeed.
Totally.
They're not always in proportion, but they kind of go together. I know you made 2 really great videos for THOUGHTSCAPE. Did you still want to take the time to show them here?
We could show like the little teaser one, maybe.
Let's
like
do
30
it.
seconds or whatever.
Yeah. So we'll show you guys the quick teaser Matt made, and then I'll also put the link for the other video where he does a flip through of the comic, which is really cool. So I'll put that in the description so you all can watch it later. But let me go ahead and get this teaser up real quick.
Every thought that has ever been thought. Every thought that has ever
I think that is so cool. Yeah. I know some people might be underwhelmed, but I am not, because it matches the exact format of the series, which is cool. Yeah. Like, you open the comic and it matches. It's not some trailer that's like way hyped up here and has this really cool formatting, and then the comic looks very different. So props to you for doing that. That's really cool.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, those are fun to put together. So it's nice to have so much great art to work with, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Matt. It's been great having you. Tell everybody where they can find you. Feel free to, of course, tease the direct link for the Kickstarter, anything you like to plug.
Yeah, so if folks want to follow the Kickstarter or get to it, they can go to THOUGHTSCAPE2023.com, and that'll take you right to the Kickstarter page, the coming soon page right now, or the live page later. And if they want just general information, then go to THOUGHTSCAPECOMICS.com. And then I am Matt MLPDX, as in the Portland Airport designation, on Twitter and Instagram, and pretty much everywhere else. And then, all the social links and stuff are also on THOUGHTSCAPECOMICS.com.
Awesome. Anything else you want to share before we get out of here?
No, that sounds good. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for joining the Nerdy Neighborhood. And to all of you watching, again, go follow that Kickstarter. If you haven't in the 26 minutes of watching this, I don't know why. Take 2 clicks. It's going to be great. You will not regret it. And we will see you guys next time in the Nerdy Neighborhood.